Doug Fischer, always a favorite on the Sports Buffet podcast, one of the editors at The Ring TV, joined me this past Friday to talk about some past events and some upcoming events. We talk Olympics boxing. We talk Robert the Ghost Guerrero and his move up to welterweight on Saturday night. We also review the fights of Amir Khan and Adrien Broner. And what's a boxing podcast without a little Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather talk? Doug Fischer, Ring TV editor on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Always love talking to Doug Fischer. He's one of the editors at the Ring TV, and Doug joins us. And Doug, a lot to talk about, so let's hop right into it. First, I want to go back a couple weeks. Amir Khan, he showed he had some heart, but didn't really, unfortunately, show a great chin for his sake. What did you see in the fight?
Well, I saw a guy who had maybe too much heart because he had the experience and the skill and the overall athleticism, the overall talent level to perhaps outclass Garcia and make it, I don't want to say an easy fight, but it was a fight that if he was stuck to the strategy and the game plan and basically operated from a distance, really worked his jab overtime in the first quarter of the bout, at least the first 4 rounds, maybe the first 5 rounds, he could have seriously discouraged Garcia and really busted his face up. And then maybe over the second half of the fight, apply gradual pressure and combinations to break Garcia down. I think that was very possible, and that's the outcome that most people saw going into this bout because Garcia was, he was a sizable underdog. If you would bet Garcia by knockout, which was the result of the fight, at the Mandalay Bay's sportsbook, the fight took place in the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, you would have received 8-1 odds betting on Garcia. So, I mean, Khan was a big favorite going into this fight, but it was a good fight on paper because Garcia is young, he's in his prime, not as experienced or as accomplished as Amir Khan, but not without talent, and certainly not without power and determination. And, the combination of his style, sort of being a quick counterpuncher with very heavy hands in both hands, the right hand and the left, and the fact that he was willing to take that punishment just to land that big bomb, that made him dangerous. And it happened. I mean, for 2 rounds, it looked like everyone picked Amir Khan was correct. And then, of course, at the end of the 3rd round, when Danny Garcia landed that huge left hook that sort of hit Khan towards the back of the ear, kind of on the neck as well, and Khan's body just froze and fell flat back, the entire arena erupted. And part of that excitement was the anticipation that something like that could happen, because as you noted, Amir Khan does not have a great chin. He's world-class all around, and he doesn't have a terrible set of whiskers. It's not like anybody can touch him on the chin and turn things around or in the fight. But if you are a puncher and you can connect on him, he gets hurt. We've seen that. He was knocked out in 1 round by Berto Prescott some years ago, and in December of 2010, Marcos Maidana. It took him 10 rounds to really reach that chin, but when he finally reached it, he turned Amir Khan's legs to wet noodles. And I think in that fight, we got a glimpse of the kind of heart that beat behind Khan's rib cage, because he survived that round. Somehow, he survived that 10th round against Marcos Maidana, and he made it through the fight. But I thought the valor that he showed in getting up from that 3rd round knockdown against Danny Garcia, and then coming out for the 4th round, when he was clearly still on very wobbly legs, and not just trying to survive, but firing back. That was scintillating stuff. That was high drama. And, I was there ringside covering it for ringtv.com. And, I couldn't, a lot of folks are tweeting while stuff happens, at fights these days, whether they're at home or they're actually in the arena. And, people take notes and stuff. But for those 2 minutes and, 28 seconds in the 4th round, I was absolutely riveted, and so was everybody else watching it. And that's the great thing about boxing. I mean, I thought that the end of that 3rd round and that entire, what there was to the 4th round, almost an entire 4th round, that was as good as boxing gets, because the drama was just so crazy. And just when it sort of seemed like Khan was out of the fight, probably midway through the fourth round, you know, he's making Garcia miss, and he's landing punches, and it looks like Garcia maybe was on his way to punching himself out, or maybe, you know, turning into a punch and running into one of Amir Khan's punches. So we all started thinking, well, you know what, if Khan can just get out of this fourth round, maybe he can resume control in the fifth round, and what a turnaround that would be. But Garcia dropped him again, and I think the referee, King Bayless, is probably the best referee that Nevada has. I thought he did the right thing by stopping the fight, even though, you know, Khan was willing to continue, and he thought that he was able to continue. I think, you know, for his personal safety, in his overall health, I think it was a good stoppage. But it was exciting stuff. I mean, it really was.
Yeah, after everything you've said, this is probably going to be one of the stupidest / weirdest questions I've ever asked you, but is Amir Khan maybe a good matchup for Floyd Mayweather in November or December if Floyd wants to fight before the end of the year?
No, because he doesn't have any credibility right now. I mean, and that's very harsh saying that, you know, with his accomplishments. I mean, Khan has done so much, you know, considering he's only 25 years old. But, you know, he's not as big a star as he is in Britain. He's never quite been that kind of British star who can come over to the United States and bring his UK fans with him the way Ricky Hatton did.
Right, there's only one Ricky Hatton.
There's only one Ricky Hatton, and he's not the kind of guy that Prince Nassim Hamed was. Hamed was such a showman, and he had such a unique style, and he had so much power that he actually made American fans of all backgrounds when he came and fought in the U.S. And Khan, he's not there. He's not like that. He's not a Ricky Hatton, and he's not Prince Nassim Hamed. He just draws okay. I mean, they didn't sell many tickets to that fight. You know, he's not the kind of guy where, you know, he can lose a fight and still be a viable, marketable opponent. You know, maybe if Floyd was willing to leave the comfy confines of Las Vegas and go to the UK, then maybe that fight makes some sense, because Khan does draw well in the UK, and you know, the fact that Mayweather is a future Hall of Famer, and many people believe he's the best fighter in the world pound for pound, he would probably be very well received in the UK, because British fans are huge boxing fans.
Well,
but unless Mayweather's willing to go overseas, I don't think that fight makes any sense.
Well, the only reason I brought it up is as follows. You know, if Floyd gets out of jail after what we saw against Miguel Cotto, I don't think it makes sense for Floyd to put himself in there with a quote-unquote risk, which I don't think Amir Khan is right now. But Amir Khan, I think he also kind of carries a little bit of a name still.
Yeah, no, he does. He has a name. It's just, as far as a pay-per-view event, you know, Mayweather's a pay-per-view fighter. I just don't see how Golden Boy Promotions, or now, you know, 50 Cent is part of the equation, you know, I don't see how Golden Boy Promotions, 50 Cent, the Money Team Promotions, and you know, presumably HBO Sports creates a real pay-per-view event atmosphere for, you know, Mayweather versus a guy who was knocked out by a 7-1 underdog. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree, but I mean, at the same time, when Victor Ortiz got the Mayweather fight, I think, was he coming off the Berto win at that point?
He was coming off the Berto win, so I mean, he wasn't ready to fight somebody like Floyd, and it was, you know, a safe fight. I think Floyd was like a 2-1 favorite in the Ortiz fight, but you know, Ortiz did have a title. He had the WBC welterweight title, and he was coming off, you know, a fight of the year candidate against Adrien Broner, so he had momentum going into the Mayweather fight, even though he didn't have a lot of momentum to his career going into the Berto fight.
Right.
But that's the difference one fight can make. So, you know, having said that, if Khan wasn't a devout Muslim, and he wasn't, you know, doing a Ramadan, and he could fight a viable opponent over the summer, let's say Ricky Hatton came out of retirement and they fought in a stadium in Manchester or something over the summer, and Khan won that fight in a terrific fight, then all of a sudden, yeah, I mean, with one fight, he could just, you know, he could switch the trajectory and momentum of his career, and then maybe he would be a marketable opponent again for Floyd Mayweather. But as it stands Khan's got a little bit of rebuilding to do.
Well, let's talk about Floyd, and then I might get back to why, again, I brought up Amir Khan's name. I don't want to beat the dead horse, though, too much. But, I understand from you guys, I believe it was your colleague Lim Satterfield who wrote the story about 50 Cent Promotions signing Andre Durrell and possibly Yoriorkis Gamboa, and obviously you would think Mayweather would go with his buddy 50. But from what I believe I read, correct me if I'm wrong, 50 Cent has only got the promotional license right now in New York?
That's correct. But
how hard is it to get one of those things?
A license in Nevada. It's not that hard.
Okay.
I mean, it costs a little bit of money. It's not tremendously hard. I mean, 50 Cent isn't the first celebrity, either from the entertainment world or from outside of the boxing world to kind of get the boxing bug and want to promote.
But Floyd ain't going to fight in New York.
No, I mean, to me, listen, if Floyd wants to fight in December of this year, and Cotto has agreed to fight, I think, December 1st, he doesn't have a dance partner yet. If Floyd wants to fight again before the end of the year, and the only marketable opponent for him is Miguel Cotto, that rematch only makes sense to me if it takes place in New York, because Miguel Cotto was such a star in New York City. Miguel Cotto in Las Vegas is not the same Miguel Cotto in New York City. In New York City, as he is in Puerto Rico and to a lesser extent in Atlantic City, he is a real draw. He's one of the few serious ticket sellers in the United States. Because when he fights at Madison Square Garden, he typically does over 15,000 tickets sold, and he's sold out that venue more than once. Matter of fact, I think he might have the venue record with his fight against Zab Judah back in 2007.
But even though Cotto makes sense in New York, I believe New York doesn't make sense to Floyd Mayweather's tax bracket, correct? Isn't it something about the taxes?
Maybe, yeah. I've heard all kinds of theories about why, Floyd Mayweather doesn't travel much.
Mm-hmm.
Why he, stays in Nevada. I mean, I just think Nevada is his hometown. He feels comfortable fighting in Vegas, and he feels that he's the star. He shouldn't have to go to somebody else's backyard. That he's the man, and if you want to fight the man, you have to come to his house, and you have to fight on his terms. That's how he is, and right now he has that leverage to fight wherever he wants, to fight whoever he wants, and to set the terms on every conceivable level.
Yeah, and the whole reason I brought up Khan again is, I think Floyd would like an easy, halfway easy fight coming out of the pen, and with Amir being promoted by Golden Boy, it just makes a little bit of sense to me where Khan still carries the name, but I don't know if I'm Floyd if I want Cotto again right away.
Yeah, no, it's a tough fight, and that's why I think they'd be able to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
If they sell it, to where hey, Cotto extended him the way people did not expect Floyd to be extended, and whatever. If you want somebody easier than Cotto, I think there's people out there. I mean, there's this fight this Saturday, tomorrow in San Jose, California, where Robert Carrero is fighting his first fight at welterweight, and he's fighting like WBC's #1 welterweight contender, an undefeated Turkish fighter who's based in Germany named Selçuk. And the winner of that fight could potentially be that sort of softy opponent, sort of code opponent, if you want to call it that, with Mayweather. And beyond them, I mean, there's, the welterweight division is not that deep, and neither is junior middleweight. If you're talking about name opponents, I mean, there's Saul Alvarez, but he's fighting September 15th. I don't know if he'd be ready to come back and fight in December, but then again, he's 21 years old. I mean, he's a young guy. And if Josecito Lopez doesn't have any more surprises as he did last month, if Lopez is beaten as easily as some fans and some members of the media think he'll be, maybe Alvarez will be able to turn right around and fight Floyd in December. I don't think so. I don't see that happening. Number one, I don't think Lopez will be that easy of an opponent for Alvarez, and number two, I don't know if Alvarez will be ready to turn right around, fight on September 15th and then go right into a camp to be ready to fight by December, but you never know.
How tough is Guerrero's fight for him on Saturday night?
Very tough. Very tough. I mean, there's so many question marks with Guerrero. We've never seen him fight above 140 pounds. And when I did see Guerrero fight at 140 pounds, I believe that was against Joel Casamayor, who's very much a faded veteran. And, Guerrero dominated the fight, but he didn't look good. He didn't look as sharp, as fast, as powerful as he normally does. And he was even dropped in the final round of that 10-rounder. Guerrero dropped down to lightweight after that fight with Casamayor, and he looked really good, dominating a very game Michael Katsidis over 12 rounds. And I thought he'd finally found the perfect division because he didn't struggle to make 135 pounds. His body looked great. He had all of the speed and reflexes and snap on his punches that he had at featherweight and junior lightweight where he held titles. So it made sense to me for him to stay at lightweight where he could possibly dominate. But he was in search of bigger and better things. And last summer he was prepared to fight Maidana in another junior welterweight bout when I think he tore his rotator cuff. He had a shoulder injury that canceled that fight, and he was in rehabbing that shoulder. He had surgery and had to rehab it for a number of months. So apart from the question mark of what he's going to look like at welterweight, there's also the question mark about his reflexes and his timing coming off of 15 months of inactivity, because his last fight was that Katsidis bout last April. So, and on the he's not fighting a chump at welterweight. He hasn't picked a softy opponent for his first fight above 140 pounds. Aydin is undefeated, and he had an extensive amateur career. He represented Turkey in the 2004 Olympics. I think he had 380 amateur bouts. I mean, so the dude is he's got that amateur experience, and although he hasn't beaten world beaters at the welterweight limit, he is a natural welterweight, and he's fought and defeated many solid fighters at 147 pounds. And he's undefeated. I think he's 23-0 with 17 knockouts, 18 knockouts. So the guy's no joke, and he's a very physical, aggressive fighter. So he's going to seek to impose his size and strength on Guerrero, and that's going to be interesting to me.
I have not watched last week's Adrien Broner fight on HBO, but I don't need to watch it to not be happy with Adrien Broner for not making the weight. I mean, I can understand missing it by a pound or two and then being told you're going to get to come back and have another chance, but then missing it by 10? I mean, what?
No, he missed it. He missed the junior lightweight limit by 3.5 pounds.
Right, which is a lot.
No more than, it is a lot. And it lets you know that maybe, a week prior to the fight, he was like, I don't think I can make this. Because he wasn't drained. He wasn't, dried out when he stepped on the scales. He looked fresh, and then he didn't attempt to lose the 3.5 pounds. He has anywhere from, an hour to 2 hours to lose the weight, depending on the jurisdiction and the title that they're fighting for. But he didn't bother with it. He had no problem abdicating his WBO junior lightweight title. And then he went right to rehydrating himself, and, Escobedo's team agreed to go ahead with the fight. They had the option to pull out right then and there. And they said, listen, we'll do the fight as long as he doesn't gain more than 10 pounds over the junior lightweight limit, which means they didn't want him to weigh more than 140 pounds at a 9:30 weigh-in the day of the fight. And Broner came in at 143 pounds, and Broner's team said, when we thought you said don't gain more than 10 pounds of weight, you meant don't gain more than 10 pounds of what he weighed in, which was 133.5 pounds, which is crap. They knew exactly what they were doing. Which means, listen, it's impressive that he was the first guy to stop Vicente Escobedo, but it wasn't a fair fight. He was already a 10-1 favorite to win that fight. And, when he came in as a welterweight, really, arguably, you could look at that fight as not a real fight, as an exhibition, because you have a junior lightweight against a guy who was just much heavier, like a junior lightweight against the guy who weighed in as a lightweight and fought as a welterweight, and it's just not an even playing field. And so Broner, it's weird because of Broner's sort of polarizing personality. He can lose fans, but still not lose popularity, if that makes any sense.
It does in a weird way.
So polarizing. When he loses fans, he loses them in the way that they want to see him lose. You know what I mean?
Right.
The fans that he's turned off are now they're not like turned off to Broner to the point where they're not going to want to watch him fight. They're now Broner haters, and they want to see somebody beat this guy up because he is so arrogant and he's so, just kind of goofy. And, yeah, he knows what he's doing, though.
So he's a Floyd Mayweather clone.
Smart guy. He is. I mean, he's doing a pretty good imitation of that. He's wearing the black hat, and he's playing it up, and he seems to be having a good time with it.
Is he managed by Al Heyman, too?
He's managed by Al Heyman, absolutely. That's the problem. I'm not saying Al Heyman's the problem. I'm saying that's his nickname.
Right.
I'm willing. I'm going to watch his next fight with interest. I'll give him a pass as long as the next, couple of fighters he fights are of a higher level than his last couple opponents at junior lightweight, which were solid guys. The last two guys he fought, Eloy Perez, who was unbeaten, and Vicente Escobedo, who was a veteran and a respected veteran, 2004 U.S. Olympian. As long as the guys he fights at lightweight or even junior welterweight, if he wants to go all the way to 140, as long as they are, higher rated contenders, if they are like a top 5 lightweight or a top 5 or 6 junior welterweight, and they are fighters who are, talented and or, experienced, powerful, rugged, whatever, I'll give him a pass as long as he challenges himself. Now, if from here he kind of cherry picks his way through the lightweight division and doesn't fight the best guys, it doesn't go for a title as soon as possible, you know what? I'll tire of him very quickly.
Next to last question. Before I ask the last question, do you think we're on course to see Mayweather Bradley 2 in November?
You mean Pacquiao Bradley?
Pacquiao Bradley. I'm sorry.
Mayweather Bradley would be interesting, I guess. I think we are. I think that's the fight that Pacquiao wants. I don't believe it's the fight that Aaron wants. I mean, I don't know. I don't recall Top Rank and or HBO releasing numbers, officially sending out a press release, letting people, news agencies and the public know what the pay-per-view buys were for Pacquiao Bradley 1. My guess is it wasn't as good as they had hoped. My guess is that it was not just under 1 million, but way under 1 million. So I don't think Aaron wants to do a rematch because Bradley just isn't. He isn't that kind of opponent who brings a huge fan base. Now, somebody like Manuel Márquez, who has a storied rivalry with Pacquiao, and who is sort of, not just respected, but a Mexican veteran who, may have legendary status in his country. He brings a passionate national following with him. That's a fight,
I think you know my feelings on that one, though. I think you know my feelings on Pacquiao Marquez 4, Doug.
What are your feelings on that?
I mean, how many times do we need to see it? I mean, I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. But,
Yeah, I liked it best the first 2 times.
Right.
The third time, I was happy for Marquez because he made it through 12 rounds without getting dropped.
Right.
And he did enough in the eyes of many people,
I just wonder how many times are we going to have it till Marquez wins? How many times do we have to have it?
Exactly. Hey, maybe that's what they call it until he gets it right. Or how about 4th time's the charm? No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think, Pacquiao probably agrees with you. I think, Pacquiao believes he could have trained harder, been more focused, been, a little more intense for the first Bradley fight. I think, he, like most people who saw the first fight against Bradley, believes he beat Bradley, and I know when a fighter loses in that fashion, where everybody thinks he won, but he didn't win on the official scorecard, in his mind he knows he could have done better. And he wants to prove that to everybody. He wants to win decisively, if not knock the guy out and take it out of the judge's hands. So, I think if we do see Pacquiao again in November, I think we will, I think it's most likely it is going to be Bradley.
Final question for you, Doug. As always, appreciate your time. We got to do this a lot more. We talk about that all the time, but we're going to do this a lot more. Final question: do you get into Olympic boxing, and if so, do you have any thoughts on Team USA?
No, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I have not watched with interest an Olympic boxing tournament since 2000, and I remember in 2000, Rocky Juarez I watched with interest. Ricky Williams, who took silver and had a terrific fight with that Cuban that he beat out for that medal. To get to the finals. There was Jermain Taylor. In 2004, I did watch Andre Ward with interest, and of course he went all the way. But in this last Olympics, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I did not watch it at all, and there was nobody going into the 2008 Olympic boxing tournament that I was really excited about, even though I had heard of some of the members of the U.S. team, such as Demetrius Andre, because he had won the World Amateur Championships the year prior. There are guys who are on this Olympic team that I think do have a chance to medal. Rushy Warren, who's made 3 U.S. boxing teams. He's the bantamweight representative. I think he has enough experience and enough skill and talent to perhaps medal in this Olympics in London. There's I think he's the lightweight representative, Jose Ramirez. He's from out here in California. I think he's might be the youngest guy, or the second to the youngest guy. I think he's 19 years old. He has sort of a professional style that has also worked well for him in the amateur ranks. At 201 pounds, Michael Hunter, he's somebody who kind of has a boxing pedigree. His old man was a heavyweight, a dangerous heavyweight journeyman. And he's somebody who has learned a lot in sort of the last 4 years gearing up for this Olympic Games. He's somebody who sparred with a lot of world-class heavyweights in professional gyms, including the heavyweight champ, Vladimir Klitschko. And I'm also kind of curious about this guy. I think his name is Dominic Brazil, and he's the super heavyweight representative on the U.S. team. I'm curious about him. I know that there are some high-powered professional managers who are keeping a close eye on him, and on some of the other guys. The light heavyweight representative is pretty good. And, I am curious as to what the female fights are going to look like, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a star to emerge from the first female Olympic boxing tournament, and not just from the U.S., but, from the host country, Great Britain, or elsewhere, China, Thailand, who knows, India. I'm just kind of interested if there's going to be a female who captures the world's attention, either because of the way she fights or her personal story. So I will be watching this one, unlike the last Olympiad.
I think it's safe money to say I will bet on Cuba and Eastern Europe for at least one medal.
They tend to do pretty well. They do pretty well.
Call it a hunch.
Ukraine, Kazakhstan, they do pretty good.
I just have a sneaking suspicion. Well, Doug, enjoy the whole Olympics, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Hey, anytime, Bob.